Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomcat Zone. It's been about 2 weeks since I made a last video, and I got a lot of work to do, get caught back up here. I've been working on some stuff here. I'm going to either, since this is going to be a relatively short video with the current log file, I'm going to show you guys real quick some stuff I've been working on. At least maybe some of my other fellow fleet players will enjoy this. I've been working on this right here. It's going to be a new condensed module with all of the fleet battles. I shouldn't say all because I don't have the maps for 3rd Fleet. So 2nd, 5th, 6th, and 7th will all be part of this module. You'll now be able to join or create a game by selecting the board, the particular board that you want to play in. I'm just going to bring up 5th Fleet as an example here. You will then select your strategic air displays for each of the games, or for each of the sides, I should say. And then, boom, it comes up. We recognize this map very well from, of course, from all my videos prior, but you will then have every counter from every game, even 3rd Fleet. That I am adding is the 3rd Fleet counters, at least for the ships. You know, not duplicating, but I'm going to bring everything to 5th Fleet rules with some optional rules to be thrown in for play, such as this will be the new sequence of play chart. You'll have everything is normal, but I'm going to bring in the 6th Fleet elements of satellites, of course, a reinforcement phase, an invasion phase. If there's going to be, this, 5th Fleet took away that function in 6th Fleet, made it more abstract. You just had to get to objective hexes, and then you got objective points. This will allow for players that want to include land combat, and maybe even will add to it as the time goes by. But bottom line, putting those functions back in, I've got all of the rules itself, though, built on 5th Fleet. 5th Fleet is my favorite. Of course, 3rd came after 5th. 5th, there's a few things that 3rd added that I'm going to be bringing in to this, which is like torpedo decoys. But I don't really force. There's not a whole lot of other stuff that I saw in 3rd Fleet that makes a big difference. Actually, there's a lot of stuff I really don't like about 3rd Fleet, where they make the action segments, instead of being in twos, they're in, every action segment is an initiative phase. Not crazy about that. I like having it break into twos, and one player goes, and then the other player goes, and then that player can go again, and that kind of inertia can build up and affect a combat one way or the other. Whereas and rolling initiative every time, you could have the whole Soviet side go at once, and then that, of course, can change combat too. But I think the other way is better. That's just my opinion, and that's how I'm building it. Combat summary will be the same, obviously, as 5th Fleet, except for, of course, again, I'm going to be adding -1 to the die roll if target has torpedo decoys. Air to air, of course, is in there. Miscellaneous charts, I've added satellites back in, but based on the satellite functions that were presented in the complete fleet, which was a handout. I don't know the author off the top of my head, and I apologize here for not having that name, but simple D10 roll to see if any satellites are available for the game turn. Subdetection will be the same, of course. Armistice, I'm bringing that back in for functions of gameplay. For those that want to use it, again, it's an optional rule, but you can include Armistice in your game. And it's built not just for 6th Fleet, it's built actually for any game with very generic but basic special events tables. Some of those might be tweaked as I go. We'll see. The original table was built on D6. This is built on D10, and basically what I did was I took the percentages, what the die percentages would have been for the results, and then of course applied it to a D10 and the ranges that were created from that. Unit schematics and optional rules. Satellites. There's some rules that I like from the complete fleet that he offers as optional rules, which are I'm not one of these players that thinks just because the base was destroyed or the carrier was sunk that the aircraft that might be in flight um, can't land somewhere else. I think that's kind of silly. I know it's probably for the sake of brevity that they include the kill as all one thing, and that way it's the VP points are done. But I like this rule, this house rule, to ditch or not, and it allows you to land cap or strategic missions at other bases if aircraft are in the air at the time. Changing air bases is simply a reduction in time frame that instead of the 8 turns that was originally put in the Fifth Fleet, um, we have it as 3. That was based on the complete fleet as well. But any player can do what they want. They can make 3, 5, 4, 6. I just like the idea of a whole day being necessary, 24 hours to turn an aircraft around and get it aircraft wing around and get it operational at a new base. I don't know. I think logistics couldn't be moved at least to get the aircraft operational for sustained operations. Obviously, it would take more time. But while those aircraft are flying their missions, whatever that after the day's reorganization, then the teams and the equipment would also be being brought in and to help sustain those operations for that air wing. And then of course Armistice, as I said, it's just something that I liked using in Sixth Fleet. I thought it was a good component. And again, optional things that are here. So bottom line, you guys have seen my board tweaks. If you've used my modules at all that are on the Victory Games Facebook page. But real simple here, I added a D6 just as a function, not necessarily everything's D10 base, but in case there's a D6 need, it's there. Turn track obviously will remain the same with a prep level now for 6 or for any of these scenarios in any of the other modules that came out of either 6th or 2nd, that there is a different levels of scenario setup. You can have a prep level section there. I included the task force displays for each major fleet. Made it generic now for the U.S. instead of naming the carriers by the module of whether it's Fifth Fleet and the 3 aircraft carriers that are included in the Fifth Fleet. It now just basically is generic, and you can name those, make those carrier air wing zones whatever they need to be for your particular game. For people that like to create scenarios, it gives them opportunities to again use any carrier from any map or any group of the games here. But I've got the NATO, I got the Soviet allies, I'm keeping the Indian task force display because they're a major player in Fifth Fleet, and they would although they wouldn't be in any of the other games still. And then finally, I've added the China air display with the eventuality that I'd like to bring the China fleet up to modern day. That'll be the end result there of this. Right now I'm building it so that all counters from all the games are in this module, all in one. You will be able to, this is all U.S. allies first. Right now I'm still working on it, so you're just going to see not very many, like I don't have the Miami built so far. But if you go to, say, Soviet allies, you're going to see Indonesia, but you're also going to see Iran. You're going to see, let's see, that's not a good example because this is all Fifth Fleet stuff still. Soviets, U.S. allies. Here we go. I got the Canadians in there. Here's the Canadian counter. We got UK, Kuwait, France, Canada, Japan. This will be the Japanese-looking counters. Anyway, everything's a work in progress. Still, I've got 1,000 or so counters to build right now, and I'm having a good time with it. It'll take some time. I'm hoping to have it done in a couple weeks here, but we'll see. Strategic air displays are, of course, what they are supposed to be. I have updated second fleets and seventh fleets for those maps that I found in other people's modules that I'm using, and certainly will give credit due where that. I think the individual's name is Jesse that created them. But I'm updating the strategic air displays so that they too will have the new zones, like in the second fleet module, the ocean I found, they had added something like 5 or 6 sea zones or land zones, including Central Europe. And so again, it's built for that, and it will have an opportunity to build on it, and I'm excited about that. The unload screen will still be here for, using the function of victory point objective hexes. You can actually use a combination of the two. You could have victory point objective hexes for slow cargo vessels, but then you could also use Marines and paratroopers and commandos raids in different functions and dropping them behind enemy lines. Who knows? We'll see what the possibilities are. Armistice page now will be, the negotiations tab will be here. Let me show you. It looks like this now, and armistice. So you put the negotiation tab there, and of course you can, excuse me once, guys. Then you can hit a function on the dice and increase the dice modifier on the armistice counter as it moves across the page there. Allies and such, I've got all nations that are in the game, so you can put Kuwait here. You can, whatever it might be, West Germany, all the flags are represented from each game that I have built, I've taken for this. Pakistan. Anyway, negotiations, cool stuff there. Allies. The last thing will be this thing. This is so you have the this is your unit palette right here. This palette over here is going to be for all the primary counters that everybody needs for every module as they are built. But that being said, the counters are now built to 5th Fleet specs, or will be built to 5th Fleet specs. So they'll include sea skimmers, fast missiles on 6th Fleet games and on 2nd Fleet games, cruise missiles, everything like that. I'm going to kind of mirror. I'm building the 5th Fleet first, and then I'm going to mirror the other ships appropriately towards what the 5th Fleet ships are. So if it's a Ticonderoga, then I'm going to have in 5th Fleet, and that has this kind of firepower, it's going to represent the same in 6th Fleet. And I'm doing a little bit about time and age of these ships as well, because if you look at the Nimitz here, hold on one moment, please. So, like the Nimitz here this is the 1975 Nimitz. I think 75 or 73 is the counter. And then the Abraham Lincoln was built launched in 1993. So when you look at the two carriers, there's some minor changes to them. I'm with the assumption that a carrier from the 1970s that's still in the service is not going to have necessarily all the same bells and whistles that a 20-year-old, a carrier 20 years younger with new technologies are available in ASW or close air defenses and the phalanx systems and stuff like that. So those kind of things I am keeping, but for the most part, I will, if it's a Sovereignty class in 5th Fleet, it's going to be a Sovereignty class in 6th Fleet with the name that's appropriate to 6th Fleet based on the how the deployments are and stuff like that. So, you know, when you go down your list of ships, you're going to be able to find the ship for that module, for that deployment chart. It'll be in the list. It'll be there. It just will have Fifth Fleet, controls and Fifth Fleet statistics. Bottom line is the ships will still have all their functionality. Only thing I'm not putting in this is I don't know how many people use it in other modules, but I did not include the invisibility function. It might be something that I add later. We'll see. It's more of an annoyance for me to keep having to build these prototypes into the game. But it'll function with the logistics as normal, and it'll function with my detect ally. Change these to, instead of counters, but now we've got flags that flag the counter. Cycle supplies, not that Nimitz carrier is going to run out of supplies necessarily, but all the functions that were marker based or counter based in the board game, I've eliminated that stuff and kind of made it so that it's all in one easy way to look at. Even aircraft now have cycle range. Like let's see here, cycle range is Control E. You can now air-to-air refuel, extend range, high mission, extended range, plus air-to-air refuel, all the functions that you can put the aircraft through. Anyway, that's what this I've got going on, so it's a fun little project. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully that might be something that is appealing to some of you out there. It should be, like I said, it should be available in a couple weeks, and when I make it available, or when I get it done, I should say, I'll make it available on the Facebook page. Anyway, and with that, of course, will come the credits for those that came before me and made some of these beautiful maps. Talked about that a little bit before, but when I'm done, I'll certainly give credit where credit's due for those components that I was able to borrow from the other modules. Anyway, to our game this evening. Okay, back to our scenario 12, the Indian Ocean War. It's been, like I said, it's been a couple weeks since we had our last video, and I apologize for that. I've just been really busy with work and other gaming things, i.e. building a new module, a fleet module. So we are into game turn 11, I believe. Yes, game turn 11. This is actually game day 4 of our battle. Excuse me, I had to get something to drink. Afternoon cycle, and initiative is won by the U.S. and or the Allies, I should say. I decide to move surface first. Okay, we do have a log file here, so we're going to go through the log file real quick. After that, the next save is the rest of the game turn, 2 through 6 action segments with no log file. We must have played it all out one afternoon via Discord, all face to face. So the only thing I've got is the actual save of the game, which shows the status of the map and counters after those 6, other 5 action segments progressed. But we can do an evaluation of that and then move on to game turn 12, which will be the PM cycle of this day. From this point forward, for the most part, you guys are going to start seeing that the videos are condensed, more of maybe multiple game turns, multiple game days, because as these counters start to bleed off and the kills continue to stack up, less things are needed to move, and so they don't, it's not as long of a file as before. Okay, so anyway, let's get going here. So we got the surface as the first action. So first, the Rapid and the Cape Ann make Diego and into my VP pool. So down here in Diego Garcia, I've got 2 slow convoy vessels left. If you guys remember, my slow convoy, the fast frigates that were with them, there was also a 3rd slow convoy vessel with this group. It was the, where's it at here? It was the Titan slow convoy group. And there was a couple fast frigates with them, and I think those fast frigates were, yeah, they're right there, the Sprague and the Williams, as you can see, battered and bruised all the way to the bottom of the sea. Those guys fought their way all the way up the coast here against multiple subcontacts, and as you can see, um, it's been 2 weeks, so I can't speak to what happened to all the subs. I know there was 2 down here that I was combating. Obviously, one was destroyed, and only the Kotov is left here. A noisy Alpha is left haunting these ships. But bottom line, my last 2 slow convoys that were racing towards Diego Garcia, they make it to Diego, and I pull them out. I put them on my victory point stack here, and I say I had to double stack them. At this point, I only had 2 rows available on this map. I increased it obviously to 4, 4 rows for one times the VP points, and that will be seen later as we progress here. But bottom line is they are off map, and they are now victory points for me, scored at one multiple of what they are in the counters. If I had made it to other ports, I could have gotten 1.5 times their value, or even 2 times their value for some ports. But those were like in the Persian Gulf, and would have taken forever to get them there if they made it. So good news for me. Got some points. Happy. We continue with the air units of Diego Garcia now being able to fly again. The base repaired after the multiple cruise missile strikes that I had taken. I'm able to finally get Task Force 4 moving again. Understand Task Force 4 is laden with a number of amphibious assault vehicles and maritime prepositioning vehicles. Okay. I've been waffling down here in the Chagos Archipelago for a few game turns because I was unable to give any kind of air support to Diego and my bombers, and everything that's sitting there, I didn't want them being destroyed by his bombers because he's got some long-range bombers that can reach it, and if there's no aircraft over the air base, they would have been destroyed. So I had to keep the Navy there with their Tomcats flying over Diego long enough for them to get that base repaired. It has happened. The F-15s are back in the air. We're able to roll, and so as you see here, Task Force 4 is finally making its transit north, and the north transit is going to go to Karachi. That's my goal. Okay, I could get higher points if I moved further up into the Gulf, but truthfully, I'm running out of time here, and I've got a lot of hexes to cover, and I can only move at three at a pace per turn. So I gotta Karachi is my goal, and if I can get those amphibs there, it'll be worth a lot of victory points for me. So anyway, the Enterprise and her escorts, as well as her charges that she's taking care of, they move forth. Good stuff. Down here, as you guys remember from our last video, the Ranger and her task group, all of the ships that were there, they got killed. The Ranger was sunk. Very, very much a bummer for me. It's, I love the U.S. Navy. I think it's a cool, functioning battle force, and those, even as a counter, those things mean a lot. It was a bummer losing a U.S. carrier. So, bottom line, Scott got some serious points for killing that task force, and all he left were these little crumbs of these, combat supply ships. So I'm just basically moving them out of the way. That's all. Up in the Persian Gulf, we see Task Force 5 and Task Force 1, which are no longer obligated to moving or in protecting empty tankers into the Persian Gulf because we landed with all of them. The last two that we had here were right here in the South Arabian Sea, and unfortunately they were blown out of existence by his bombers in the last turn. And that's why we saw them here, as you can see, the Sea Giant and the Gas Prince, both on the bottom of the ocean now. So anyway, with that being the case, I don't have to have Task Force 5 and Task Force 1 up in the Persian Gulf anymore. I can move these guys down into where the combat's going on and apply them the way they can be used more efficiently. And if you look at Task Force 1, it's predominantly destroyers and frigates and fast attack boats. Same with Task Force 5, Saudi Arabian, fast frigates and patrol craft. Okay, the Brits are still hanging on, as well as the French, so that's nice to see that even though the Ark Royal is gone, the Brits are still able to give me assistance, and the French are still represented here, even though the Clemenceau was lost a day ago or so. So anyway, those fleets come out of the Persian Gulf, and we continue here. I bring that last Pakistani frigate up to meet up with his combat supply vessel. I'm not really sure why I moved it there, other than to get it closer to Task Force 1 and 5 so they can merge, and to stay out of the way of his sub here, the Sindhvaj. Task Force 2 and okay, so Task Force 2 will make a 22 SSM attack against Task Force 1. Okay, it's time to have some fun here. Task Force 2 is the Brits and the French combination group here. And you remember, Task Force 1 was the Tbilisi Task Force, okay? They still have their fighter escorts above the group there, but I have been really successful in just picking this group apart, this task force apart, at least to the point of damaging his ships, slowing them down, and weakening their offensive abilities. So anyway, the Brits are going to be able to muster 22 points here with the French, 4, 12, plus 12. Why is it? That should have been 24 points. 4, 12, 18, 24. I don't know. Anyway, I typed 22 there. Math is, obviously eluded me there. Anyway, I roll for location. I get a 2. Top of the stack, which is great. That's where the Tbilisi is. I'm ready to put that ship down, kill that carrier, and really drive a moral blow into the heart of the Soviet Union sea forces here. So I put 19 into the Tbilisi and 3 into the Zakharov. It should have been more than that, but I messed up my math. And I said, wait, I need to be at least one away to make this attack, because if you look at my fleet here, turn that off. They're all, the only one that has a 2 range was the Cumberland. Everything else was a range of 1. So I need to be closer. And so the Brits move to direct contact with Task Force 1, and we attack. I will commit by moving forward. Both ships are on a 6 column, meaning the defense of his vessels are, after you look at the Tbilisi here, because I got the top of the stack, so I check his overall area air is 2, 4. Okay, 2 here, 2 here for the Petropavlovsk and the Isakov. So he's got a 4, and then the Tbilisi has no benefit for any ship underneath it. So that is 2, 4, 8. Why am I counting on the 6 column here, guys? Wow. I in the same battle here? Hold on a second. Oh, I know why. Sea skimmers. The majority of my attack S1s or S2s are sea skimmers. I have fast missiles here with the Gloucester, but the sea skimmers are predominant in the total of the SSM attack. So the sea skimmers cut his area air in half. So he gets the 2 for the Isakov and the Petropavlovsk, add up to 4, halves 2. Add that to the Tbilisis, 4, that's a 6, and then um, the Zakharov would have been on the 9 column because it would have been 6 plus 3 is 9. Okay, let's see what happens here. Because I say I'm putting 19 into the Tbilisi and 3 into the other. Both ships are on the 6 column. You get a +2 for task force and a +2 for your air early warning aloft. So he gets an additional +4 to the die roll. So anyway, he rolls. I roll for him. He rolls a 0. That is a -2 to both my attacks. I roll for the Tbilisi first. I roll a 1 and then a 9. And the Zakharov is dead. The Zakharov would have been hit there. And we pull it out of the mix. Truthfully, I'd probably rerun those numbers because it looks like I missed 3 points of his defense there. But hindsight, this is about 2 months after the fact, so sorry about your luck, Scott. I hope you watch this video, man. Anyway, I missed that. He missed it. We missed it in the review because we always would review these log files together. Anyway, the Zakharov is killed. Local detection is placed on Task Force 2 because they are in contact with Task Force 1. You'll see my Task Force 3 kind of goes back and forth as I decide my direction. And I decide to Task Force 3 will now task Task Force 1. Got a whopping 94 SSM value to put into this. I roll for location. Again, I get a even number, which is the top of the stack. 76 is going into that aircraft carrier. I want it dead. I want it dead. I want its aircraft dead. So, boom, 76 into the Tbilisi and 18 into the Isakov. Another sea skimmer attack, so both are on the 5-6 column. +4 to your rolls like before, which is an 11. That is a -6 to my roll. So if we look at the chart real quick here, he rolled a 7 +4. 7 on the defense, +4 is an 11. And his defense, as I said, was in the 6 column. That's a -6 to my attacks. Okay, so that's where that comes from. But then we roll for my attack on the Tbilisi first. I roll a 4, so a -4, or a 4 -6 takes me to -2, and I roll that all the way over to 76. That's a 4 damage, and that, my friends, is a kill. The Tbilisi is sunk and the Isakov is missed, as you can see on the screen there. And what a great thing it is. And the Tbilisi takes missiles, and she goes down into the drink, as well as all the aircraft on her cap, or RTB. The rules that we talked about a few minutes ago, when I was talking about my new build, the to ditch or not to ditch. He'll have a chance to evaluate whether or not those aircraft can make it to any bases. He's got Roskarma close by. It's quite possible he can get those aircraft to Roskarma and save some of them. So again, we RTV the aircraft instead of immediately putting him into the kill pile until that is tested as far as the ranges availability. And so that's where we see the end of my log file here, and we're going to pause it and bring up the next game save. Okay, so we pick up with the next game save. This is not a log file, this is a game save. So basically all I have to do really with it is kind of evaluate the picture as we see it at this point. Again, it's been a few months since we played this, so we got to make some assumptions or guesses at what, our thoughts were, what we did at the moment. But bottom line is all 6 counters went through, and I prepped for the evening turn here with the end of this. Looking at the map up here, and we're just going to kind of scroll across, the Gulf of Aden kind of stayed as it is. Of course, his Ethiopian patrol craft are moving south. This slow boat to China here is the Griff. It's moving steadily south into Socotra to become a factor in his torpedo or his sub combat. But if we look here, task group 1, as it is now a task group, only 3 ships left in the group, um, eliminated all of the assets there. He did get enough, he does have enough range to fly these aircraft to Roskarma, so they are on the turn track for 3 turns later that they'll become available to him here in Roskarma. You're allowed to have 4 combat aircraft units in a base. He's only got 2 there. Well, he's got some in the air. Maybe we needed to test that too, Scott. Roskarma had 2 MiG-23s. So truthfully, by the rules as they are written, though he has 3 interceptors coming in. One of them wouldn't have been allowed to land. There just would have been, it would have had to go to another base. And I don't think it might have made it to Al-Makala, maybe. I'm not sure. Not relevant at this point. Game's over, and we played it through, and we did it as it is, and it's cool. Little things happen, and things are missed as you play a game, and you just want to try and keep it as, make sure you're as fair to each other as possible, obviously. Task Force 2, though, is his slow convoy ships. Okay, he's got to get them across to Iran to unload them to support his military forces that are combating in the new communist state of Iran with the, based on what this scenario is built on. And he hasn't done a good job of getting those ships across the Arabian Sea, man. He keeps going back and forth, not wanting to leave the cover of his combat air over Roskarma. Maybe you should have taken advantage of moving that to Tbilisi faster with the Task Force 2 in tow, kind of like what I've done, or did, I should say. But if he wants to keep him there, he's welcome to. Bottom line is, as you can see here, the Turbulence been found. The Beluga's been found. Of course, we know where Task Group 1 is. Task Group 2, of course, was found when it attacked his Task Force 1 in my action segment. The great thing is, Task Force 3, my Lincoln group, is still unknown where it's at. So going into the next turn, all these subs are going to have a hard time finding any targets. And I'll tell you one thing, that's good, because, man, when these subs have someone to go after, it's terrifying to watch torpedo attacks. Okay, down here in the south and around Chagos Archipelago, he still has 3 subs active in this area. The Cinderaj is found, but his 2 Soviet subs are kind of hard to pin down. That bulk cache, that deep diver is really hard to find, and with a 9 strength, it's really hard to kill. But he has found the Sea Devil, and the Key West is the only 2 subs I have left. As you guys remember, the Shark was down here, and it was killed. He is bringing the Kotab north as I move mine north. With the slow convoys finally making it to Diego, the Albany and the Miami now are free to deploy for combat in other areas. So I start moving them north towards Task Force 4 and the Enterprise to offer escort service and get some screening, some sub screening there. Nothing much left down here in the area of Sumatra. With the death of the Ranger, his units are free to deploy now. One thing you will see is the Baton Rouge is gone. That was one of my Los Angeles class subs, and it was a bummer to see it die in this game turn, but it did die, and but it served its purpose. It air you know it cruise missile struck Kamran here, not Kamran, but Karnikabar, helped in shutting that air base down. So it was a viable unit for our war here. He's starting to move his carrier task forces now back north. The Minsk, I believe it's the Minsk here. That's task crew, or it's the Kiev. The Kiev and the Vikrant. The Vikrant, is it the Vikrant or the Virat? Let's see here. This is the Southern Fleet. I think it's Task Force 1. Yeah, Task Force 1. So it is the Vikrant. Those two carrier groups are now starting to move north because he has no more, really no more major enemies down here in the southern part of the map. The Sea Lion and the Cochrane. I've got 2 diesel boats left, but they really don't merit much attention from those task forces. Is Task Force 3 here? Or Task Force 4. He's got a Cap 3 over it. Is the Virat, and it was damaged in the early part of the battle, and it's got 4 escorts. It's not a major concern for me. The Virat, the Indian carrier groups are, their aircraft, certainly the Harriers, aren't a major problem other than to keep the carrier itself with a defense over it. But they do have a lot of missiles if they can get close enough. He's got a good 22 missile strike there. Certainly more with the Vikrant's task force. But this isn't a major threat to me. The Tbilisi was and maybe if they were combined, maybe if he'd consolidated and brought his 2 carriers together, the Lincoln might have had a challenge, much more larger challenge. But as it's been his subs and of course his bombers. They are the most lethal part of the Soviet forces in these games, at least in my opinion. There. So anyway, up to the Persian Gulf. There's really nothing else to see. The 4 empty tankers that I did get to Bahrain and to Kuwait, they were done, but the other 2 didn't even make it into the Gulf of Oman before they were sunk. They would have been going to Abu Dhabi here. That little ship symbol right there shows you what the destination victory hex is for those guys. So they died. So realistically, there's nothing left up in the Persian Gulf that I have to worry about, except to kind of keep a big screen of combat air patrol up to limit his course that he can fly his bombers around and make his flight range having to be longer, which limits the number of units he can bring at me. Electronic warfare aircraft don't have the legs that the bombers do, and certainly the fighters don't have the legs, and that is very helpful. So anyway, that is all of game turn 11, and it was a little vengeance for the Allies here for the loss of 3 carriers, the Clemenceau, the Ark Royal, and the Ranger over the last 2 days of gameplay. Well, we got the Tbilisi at least, and we've got a lot of our mission objectives done. So there's the new layout for. That's when I introduced. You can see all the counters are in their spots now. But anyway, the little bit of vengeance there for the Allies, but we have, as far as I'm concerned, the Navy has succeeded at its mission, which is to always defend and to get the support vessels to the ports and bring those supplies in. So we're doing it there. The Soviets, not so much. Task Force 2 just kind of sitting idle.